On November 3, 1927, Alexander Lebenstein was born in the small town of Haltern am See in northwestern Germany. He was the only son of a small Jewish family, one of a handful of Jewish families living in that town. In the early 1930s, the ugliness of the Holocaust began to seep into the community. Many Jews could not imagine how cruel their neighbors and fellow German citizens would become over the following years. Of the approximately 140 Jewish people living in Haltern am See before the war, Alex is the only one to survive the atrocities of the Holocaust. The harrowing account of Alex's life is mesmerizing. His transformation in the years after the war is astonishing. Alex's family did not survive. Today, Alex is 81 years old. He is about to return to Haltern am See for the 5th time in over a decade. Although he has made several emotional journeys back to Germany before, this trip will be much different. Its highs and lows will be unmatched by those of us who have lived ordinary lives. But then again, Alex has lived an extraordinary life.
The name of the city is Haltern, Haltern am See, town where I was born and of which I'm the sole survivor. I went there at first with great hesitation, anger, frustration, still with the feeling of kill the Germans.
When Alex was 11 years old, his life was forever changed by the events of Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. On the night of November 9, 1938, and all through the following day, mobs of German citizens took it upon themselves to destroy the Jewish community in Haltern am See and in other cities and towns all over Germany. During these pogroms, hundreds of Jewish synagogues were burned to the ground. Jewish businesses were demolished, and thousands of Jewish homes were ransacked while their owners were beaten, arrested, or murdered.
On November 10th, 1938, the 2 days of Kristallnacht, which was of course my most destructive 2 days, and our home was destroyed and we could never go back to our house. We were also in hiding for a few days in the basement of an old hotel. Then they opened this huge loft in the house of Hermann Kohm, one of our Jewish members of the city, who owned this three-story apartment house. And all the Jews were hoarded into this apartment, and they called this das Judenhaus. It's equivalent of a ghetto because we had somebody watching there. And I called this, from that day on I was incarcerated, and I called this my first ghetto.
Today, Alex meets with his family members to prepare for his 5th trip back to Germany.
Getting ready for this trip is a bittersweet memory. Going back again and seeing the town and where my mother Rose lived, and Alex and my Aunt Alice is going to be a wonderful bittersweet experience, because I'm going to be able to show my daughter where they lived, where they walked in the streets.
I've decided to go to Germany with my mom to share this experience with Alex and our entire family. He was always special. You know, he always had some anger you could see in him. It's obvious that he had a very difficult life.
I saw the very worst. I have overcome that because I not just seen the worst, I felt the worst, the pain, the hunger, the cold, the freezing, only wearing those striped pajamas on this cold slave labor works in the wintertime. And witnessing so many killings and hangings and children suffering and murdered, and it's unbelievable. That's why I carried so much anger, and I carried it right into my adult life. And my hindsight tells me that my family suffered from it. I know that both of my children have taken the brunt from it, and I feel very bad, but I just did not have the foresight. I could not rid myself of this terrible, terrible pain.
I first met Alex shortly after he came to the United States in 1947. and it was, I don't know what it was called, but it was a Hanukkah.
A Hanukkah play.
That was when I first met Alex.
That was in what year?
1947.
Hanukkah 47. Do you want me to point? Is this too dark here to point out? Here is Inge and myself. Inge and myself.
I remember him in 1947 as a very sort of bewildered and somewhat angry person. So by Hanukkah 47, you were 20 years old, and I was 17.
Yeah.
And he was very angry. He was, you could just feel the boiling, you know. We went out.
Well, I'm not hiding it, as you all know.
Well,
I don't
I
hide
think you're
what I was
doing a
doing.
whole lot better today. But the change in him since he became involved in talking, I think really it began with the trip to Germany the first time and the subsequent trips.
Let's proceed.
I'm going.
On the surface, there doesn't seem to be anything extraordinary about the town of Haltern am See, Germany. It has a population of about 39,000 people who work in and outside the town and its surrounding cities. Yet there is something extraordinary happening in Haltern am See, especially when Alexander Lebenstein comes to town. For Alexander, each trip to Haltern must include some time to pay homage to his family and childhood memories. He will confront his past by retracing the devastating events that his family experienced the night of Kristallnacht, November 10, 1938. On that night, Alex's family was attacked by Nazi sympathizers and forced to flee from their home.
We are here on the street where I lived, called Disselhof. It is very clearly visible. The blue and white house, this tall house, is where my property was, the property of my parents. Our whole house was built in the early 1800s and did not withstand the years over the war, and it did sort of rot away. 7 years ago it was Kristallnacht, so the last time I lived in our house on this property approaches 70 years ago.
Haben die wahrscheinlich in der Jugend gespielt.
Ja, kann sein, aber es sind doch so lange vorbei.
Die sind jetzt alle groß und meine Frau ist schon tot und so weiter.
Ja, mein Gott.
Aber nicht,
Sie wissen doch, diesen November wird es schon 70 Jahre. There was a little interview from one of the people. He's 84, 85. His wife was my age. She has passed on. And I used to play with his wife, even with soccer and so on, here in the street, and he wanted to remind me of those times, and that he remembers very well when everything was destroyed, the Pogromnacht night, Kristallnacht, and how treacherous it was, and he verified whatever.
After Alex and his family were forced from their home, they fled to their family's garden, where they hid for several hours.
So we're approaching here the gardens. This looked to me very much like our garden. However, I also know it was wider than this. But it looked something like this. I remember a little bit of a height going into the door. And if you come here, you can get a general view of the garden. Only imagine it to be larger, and that the gazebo would have been all the way there in the back. I just wanted to see on your film how close it was from the house, from the Wehrstraße, from the back of the house, to move about freely. On this cold day, there was nobody in the gardens over here in November, we just peacefully went in here and into the gazebo. When we left from here to go to the cemetery, we went the way from the back out and then straight out, and you will come to the cemetery. It is really not that far.
Neighbors suggested that Alex and his family would be safer if they went into hiding in the local Jewish cemetery. So they left the garden in the cover of night to make their way to the cemetery.
Several monuments that are placed here on the cemetery, which explains about all those that were murdered during the Holocaust, including, of course, my parents. And you see over here, for instance, where they know, like in Riga or Auschwitz or Minsk. It is also inscribed that the only person that survived the concentration camp was me, and my name is inscribed in the bottom. You know, which was in those days the beginning of the cemetery. When I speak about an iron gate opening up, that was never oiled, and squeaked and squeaked. And masses of Nazis came from this side, from over here, and the gate was down there. You see over there where that entrance is? That's actually, even here something was annexed from the cemetery. This was much deeper, much further, and there was an iron gate, and I remember the squeak of it, because that gate never was oiled, and you know, when iron stays out, and sometimes when I hear a similar noise, when iron rubs on iron, I cannot help but think of that moment when the Nazis came here screaming with these anti-Semitic slogans that were so unbearable, carrying lanterns and axes and crowbars. It was the moment they came in here, they started to swing at these gravestones and destroyed them. And I just want to demonstrate to you how we hid here. And when you see me go down here, you see the steepness. You see the steepness of this here. And like I said prior, you need to know that this fence wasn't here. I just want you to know how we hid here, approximately laying down on that cold night and hiding here. And we were hiding here, just cuddled up that nobody should see us. This gives you a pretty good idea of what it was like when my father and mother with me here, desperately afraid that they came for us, that we were sold out by, or that they got a hold of some of my parents' friends, and they would know where we were hiding, but that was not the case. Thanks.
Oh, that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, it's the very bad memories over here. We were desperate. That's all I can tell you. I believe you can put yourself into the feeling what it was like.
From the cemetery, Alex and his family were led by supportive and courageous friends to a hiding spot in the basement of the Hotel Zonderman. They hid there for 3 days.
It's the hotel where we hid in after the Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass of 1938, where once people took us from the cemetery and brought us here into the basement. This was owned by a woman by the name of Plum. Okay, follow me.
Oh, I have to switch on the lights.
Okay. These are the steps to go down to this basement. These ancient walls, like I said, you can see very well how old this basement is and how shallow. I think people were a lot shorter in those days than we are today. How old is this building?
It's from 1864.
Now, if you follow me here, this was really the place where we were in hiding. Be careful there. And it's okay, it was cleaned up as historic, but I remember quite, not very well, but I remember well the shallow ceilings and possibly to be sitting down right in this here, which was once the delivery for coal. But this was the safest place to hide for my parents and myself, to have shelter from that cold night of November 10th to 11th of 1938. Well, I was 11 years old then. I was still very frightened, even so at least it was warm, and we had some warm soup, but I was still very frightened of what might be ahead because of all what we endured. What I do remember also when I wandered out this way here, that I would hear footsteps and like dancing above. When I heard the Nazis celebrating themselves over the victory of the 19 Jewish families, that they have taken away their living quarters, their homes, and they were celebrating, and you could hear the footsteps from above. So I really, first of all, I have an awful lot of gratitude and gratefulness and many thank yous to say to the Plum family that took the chance with their lives. And I hope that God will give them a good, long, healthy life in reward.
After 3 days of hiding in the hotel basement, Alex and his family were instructed to move to a guarded ghetto known as Judenhaus.
We are here on the Münsterstraße, and this was our last home here in Haltern, and it was called das Judenhaus, the home for Jews, which was equivalent of a ghetto, namely the gray and white building, the tall gray and white building that you see over there was the place where we were incarcerated. Yeah, we were here from November 1938 until January of 1942. We were kept in this here house. And of course, in 1939, people were still able to get out and could even immigrate to different countries or could ask for permission to be taken or moved to larger cities where they had relatives. And most of the people left as such. I'm visualizing so clearly when I looked out of that second floor window once, and there was this field here with corn or wheat, and it was a very harsh winter, and I saw a dove frozen on top of one of these stalks, and I said to call my mother, there's a dove there. She says, oh, well, what do you want? She's just sitting there. I said, no, she's stuck, I'm gonna go and get her. And I ran across the street, and I just went and I caught the dove, and I brought it up to my mother. And being in those days, we were still trained from the slaughterhouse. I say, now go slaughter the duck and prepare it for me for a roast. I think she did. Vaguely in my mind, she did.
You were living in the Judenhaus. Mm-hmm. Did your father work?
Yes.
Where did he work?
Brick factory.
In a brick factory.
Brick factory. So obviously
Right up Münsterstraße, you see a little bit of a hill like in the street, you know? I used to ride my bike up there. Just past that hill, a little bit past the hill, to the left side, there is still a brick factory.
immediately then the whole
the
butcher
business.
operation just stopped.
Oh, forget about the
Right,
butcher.
it was over.
No,
It
the
was
butcher,
over.
come on. The butcher operation stopped 2 years before.
2 years before.
Yeah, because the license was revoked.
So what did he do during that time?
The only thing was here and there, I went sometimes with my father, we went to the farmers, like to say hello to them, you know, and they knew he was coming, and they would have him help to slaughter hogs for them, especially in October, November, December.
They were busy and he knew how to do it.
I mean, we've learned a lot of family history that was something that we only heard little dribs and drabs of before, but to come here to the town and see it come to life and see the house, or this is where we hid from the Nazis, or this is the hole we hid in, or this is where the gazebo was, or this is the hotel where they hid us in the basement. These were some of the good people who fed us soup and sandwiches and gave us blankets. And that's to kind of hear about it is one thing. To see it, it strikes it at the core.
Alex and his parents were held in the Judenhouse for 3 years before being sent by cattle car to a concentration camp in Riga, Latvia. Both of Alex's parents were murdered in this camp in 1942. During this time, Alex was sent to a series of labor camps where he was forced to do arduous work and nearly starved.
Yeah, the ugliest part of mankind for me, and especially being so young in those days and needed to grow up really fast because I lost my parents in 42, both of them already.
Ach, das gibt's doch nicht. Das gibt's doch nicht. Sie kommen gerade an, hallo alle.
Mein Ewald, mein Ewald.
Gestern haben wir schon zweimal.
This is my friend Ewald Aul. My friend. We know each other from the concentration camp time. And when we were detained by the Russians after our liberation, of course we were quite sick with typhus and all. And the Russians helped us to get healthy, and we wound up working in this hospital with the Russians. It was a former schoolhouse.
After the end of World War II, most Germans did not want to speak to their children about the horrors of the Holocaust. But the following generations of Germans began to question their parents and grandparents and their government.
Ewald knows that this picture is here.
Yes, he knows it because when I found the picture here in the exposition, I rang him up and I told him.
In the 1970s, Georg Nuckermann began his quest for answers to what had happened in the town of Haltern am See during the Holocaust. Over the years, many German citizens joined him in this quest, a quest that would eventually lead them to Alexander Lebenstein.
The 70s, I started to learn more about the time between 33 and 45 in Haltern, and so I learned that the family in Disselhof 36 were in the Kristallnacht, the 10th of November in 1938. They were typed out of the house, and they were punished and getreten.
Kicked.
And Alex, was kicked in his back from other people, and it was really scenes, they were very bad.
Now we tried to find some Jewish people, from Jewish men or women from Haltern, and so with the help of Mr. Nuckermann, I found the name of Alexander Lebenstein, and we found out his address, and together with the people we wrote a letter to him.
Georg spent nearly a decade trying to contact Alex to convince him to come to Haltern for a visit.
In 1992 we had our first telephone contact. Nevertheless, he was not really curious to come to Haltern. Even in 95, when the students from the Berufskolleg, they wrote him a letter, then he came and visited Haltern.
So you have to understand how difficult it was for me to suddenly listen or read letters from students begging me to come and tell them about my past, about Jewish life in this modest town before Hitler, during Hitler, and most of all, how did I survive?
one day Alexander Lebenstein came into our class. I had a class of 17-year-old pupils, and there he was, and it was an embarrassing and astonishing appearance of a man. He was so optimistic and so dynamic and so positive, and he had no hate or something like that, and he influenced the students very, very strongly.
When I saw the pain, what they inherited from their grandparents, what the bloody mess, what their grandparents left for them, and for the future children to inherit. When students came to me and wanted to hold my hand and thought that I was holy for surviving, I got chills through my bones. And I told them, I'm not holy. Why do you want to hold my hand? And they asked for forgiveness. I said, what did you do? I said, not me. Our grandparents. We checked them out. We know who they were. Please, Mr. Lebenstein, can you please forgive me?
And later on he said the one important sentence, I've come here because of you young people. I forgot all what I have suffered under the Nazis and the Germans 50 years ago. I wanted to know nothing about Germany. And the young people have influenced him to come here. That's the main thing. And from then on, he started his career as a talker.
Alex began to speak to students and adults in the United States and Germany in the hopes of educating everyone about his life experience as a Holocaust survivor and the lasting pain it has brought him. For years, Alex has served as a volunteer docent at the Virginia Holocaust Museum. He also travels around the country speaking to school children, teachers, and ordinary citizens.
Why can't more people step forward and make a difference?
In Germany, as in Virginia, Alex speaks out against intolerance, discrimination, racism, and the damage they cause to individuals, communities, and entire nations. Alex's ideals were shared by the students at Haltern Middle School. With the support of principal and committed teachers, Haltern Middle School had already begun its journey to become members in Germany's prestigious Realschule program. The program requires the Student Council to come up with new ways to educate the student body on Germany's anti-Semitic past. By doing this, they hope to ensure that there will never be another Holocaust.
These are the students from Haltern am See.
Ja, ich glaube schon. Wir haben hier das Besondere, dass wir, was ich vorhin gesagt habe, dass wir eine Schülervertretung haben, die um sich herum ganz viele andere Schüler schart, ein Team. Und mit diesem Team seit 96, 97 machen wir ein Jahresthema und versuchen anhand dieses Jahresthemas Aspekte über das ganze Jahr dann umzusetzen. So arbeiten die Schüler mit und geben auch der Schule dann das Jahresprogramm vor, sodass die unterschiedlichen Schulstufen und unterschiedlichen Schüler an diesem Programm arbeiten. Entweder die Kleinen, mal die Mittelstufen, mal die Oberstufe.
These students worked on Holocaust education projects with the school and their parents.
First we do a project for the 5th and 6th grade. We make something about the Holocaust.
Yes, we had made a project about the ghetto Theresienstadt. Theresienstadt was
concentration. Yeah, it was a concentration camp.
There were Jewish people and
the people had a bad life in this concentration camp. They had to work a lot, and it was really hard for them.
My parents think that it was good to go to work in the activity group there, and
Yeah, my mother was at the school too, and
She's very proud that we do a lot against racism, and she was very happy that I had the opportunity to meet Alexander, and it was very good.
As I said, I was the parent representative for 3 years, and during this time I was very much involved with the projects, and I felt very honored that I could be here to help.
Also das Wichtigste war für mich eigentlich die Aufstellung des Güterwaggons, als Ort gegen das Vergessen. Da hatte ich gedacht, dass man da für die Nachwelt auch die Nachwelt nach mir, etwas hinstellt, was man immer wieder sieht.
We did the Calcar project, and yeah, that was amazing too. We restored it and painted it and made the exhibition inside and things like that.
Ich denke, Alex kam zur rechten Zeit. Er war eigentlich für uns ein Glücksfall. Wir waren schon auf der Schiene. Das Thema Rassismus, Gegenrassismus, Aufklärung, viele Aktionen. Und als wir dann dieses Schild bekommen haben, Schule gegen Rassismus, Schule mit Courage, haben wir erst spontan überlegt, welche berühmte Persönlichkeit sollte denn kommen. Aber schon früh ist den Schülern eingefallen, wir nehmen eine Person hier aus Haltern, gibt es jemanden. Und da kamen wir auf Alex, und das war ein Glücksfall für uns, dass er auch unseren roten Faden mitbestimmt hat.
When Alex agreed to become the school's godfather, it was the perfect match. Alex, who was nearly 80 years old, had finally resolved to speak openly about his past. And the students, teachers, and citizens of Haltern were committed to learning about his story and trying to make amends for his suffering.
Und wir würden uns freuen, wenn du dann einfach mal dich zwischen die Schüler mischt, was du ja auch, glaube ich, ganz gerne tust.
Ganz gerne tue, ja.
Hier und da einige Fragen klärst.
Ja.
Alex.
So, das ist doch das Beste. Alle Hände einfach. Look at this.
Can we be friends?
Yeah,
My
yes.
email address, yes.
Ah.
My name is Luke.
I hope they will understand that how good these students here are, how diligent they are, how willing they are to learn and to change the whole world. And I found the truth after I met these students in Germany in 1995. It's very traumatic. I just didn't realize that these students were not part of the Nazi movement, that they were not born then, nor were their parents born in those days. I never faced that reality before.
The school uses Alex and his story for teaching the history of Haltern whenever they can, and the students honor him with their love and dedication.
This is the house of Alexander Lebenstein, and he lived here with his family. This is the stones where the names are from his family. Yes. And there is a sign about his story and how he lived here.
In fact, each time Alex comes to Haltern, the school gathers the upperclassmen for a question and answer session like none before. A chance to ask a Holocaust survivor questions about his life.
Please ask your questions, I'm ready for you. And I mean it, you can ask anything. If I don't know, I say I don't know. Yes?
Verspüren Sie manchmal noch Hass auf das deutsche Volk? So teilweise. What do you think about the people who fight against racism? Sind Sie nach Amerika gereist? Did you have a hilarious life after you moved to America?
Wissen Sie nicht, dass Sie ständig die Geschichten wiederholen müssen? Ich meine, das erinnert Sie schließlich immer und immer wieder aufs Neue an
Ich halte es für ausgesprochen wichtig, dass man Schüler mit dem, was in der Geschichte passiert ist, vertraut macht und dass man ihnen sagt, dass es oder dass ihnen klar wird, dass es anders gehen muss, dass es Mitmenschlichkeit, Toleranz geben muss, dass Rassismus nicht auf der Tagesordnung stehen sollte, dass sie sich einsetzen müssen, dass sie Mut zeigen müssen, auch aufstehen müssen, wenn Unrecht geschieht. Das finde ich ausgesprochen wichtig heutzutage.
So now, after over a decade of correspondence and visits between the town and its one survivor of the Holocaust, Haltern has voted to give the highest honor it can bestow on a citizen, the Ehrenberger Honorary Citizen Award, to Alexander Lebenstein. The City Council voted unanimously to offer this title to Alex. It is only the second time in 70 years.
In allererster Linie hat es etwas damit zu tun, dass er sich ganz hervorragend gegen Rassismus und für Toleranz einsetzt und das auch vorlebt in seinem eigenen Leben, in seiner eigenen Heimat und das auch sehr gut rüberbringt hier bei unseren Schülerinnen und Schülern. Also für uns ist ganz wichtig, insbesondere unseren jungen Leuten klarzumachen, dass auch in ihrer Stadt die Nationalsozialisten großes Unrecht an den Juden ausgeübt haben und das darf nicht vergessen werden. Denn Ihr Lebensweg, lieber Alexander Lebenstein, hat in jungen Jahren eine erzwungene, tragische Wende erfahren. Als ganz junger Mensch, fast noch als Kind, wurden Sie aus einem normalen, bürgerlichen Leben herausgerissen. Das gipfelte darin, dass Sie mit Ihren Eltern aus Ihrer Heimatstadt Haltern deportiert und zur Sklavenarbeit gezwungen wurden. Ihre Eltern fanden dabei den Tod. Sie selbst überlebten, doch beschädigt an Körper und Seele. Über 60 Jahre nach diesem tragischen Geschehen sitzen Sie als Ehrengast inmitten des Halterner Stadtrates, begleitet von einem Teil Ihrer Familie und Freunden und Bekannten aus den Vereinigten Staaten, aber auch aus Haltern am See. Auch unter diesem Aspekt ist der heutige Tag ein freudiger für unsere Stadt Haltern am See und ihre Bürgerinnen und Bürger. Zu diesen Bürgern gehört ab heute mit vollem Recht auch wieder Alexander Lebenstein, der Haltern, so hoffe ich, nicht nur als seinen Geburtsort, sondern auch als seine Heimat ansieht. Herzlich willkommen in Haltern am See.
It's wirklich traurig, it's very sad that some people live with hate all their lives. You're talking to the right person. I did live with hate for most of my life. And I thought really that that was a way of life, that that's how I should live, of never being forgiving to Germany or to anything in Germany, not even the children. Well, even further, not even the dogs. Why the dogs? Because they're always in my nightmare. They bit me. You understand what I'm talking about? Now, when someone is so hateful and has so much hate inside, you can believe me that it takes painful work to rid yourself of hate, and you cannot do it alone. You can go to all kinds of psychiatrists and all kinds of doctors. Yeah, they can help you a little bit. I found a medicine, and that's called the children of today. The first injection of that medicine was here in Haltern. It was painful. The first injection was really painful. The second one, not so bad. And the third one was even better. And the fourth one, I saw the light that day. Especially to my friend, Bürgermeister.
Not to be outdone by the city officials, the Haltern Middle School made a bold move of its own to honor Alex. They voted to rename their school the Alexander Lebenstein Middle School.
Lieber Alex, der heutige Tag ist für mich einer der größten meiner 22-jährigen Amtszeit. Ich bin dem Herrgott dankbar, dass ich dich kennenlernen durfte, und ich bin stolz, dass du das Angebot der Schule, dieser deinen Namen so geben, so positiv aufgenommen hast. Danke, Alex.
Am I happy that I will have my name? Why do people ask me even, Alexander, are you happy the school will have your name? How could you even ask? Of course I am. I am flying high, like it said in your newspapers. That's what I mean. I promise you I will stay connected and I will come back. This is not the end of Alexander Lebenstein in Haltern am See. Can I go?
Yes.
Hello. Hi, Frau Kurti.
It's done.
Oh my God. I can say it in English, I'm overwhelmed. You know, my feelings my emotions have taken me over. I have no control of my thoughts, of my heart, yeah, but not of my thoughts. I have no control over it. It's just so much. It just taken me over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because everybody knows the name now in town. It is everybody knows the school has a name, and they will ask, who is this person? And they will want to know what happened and who he is. And like in that way we can tell everybody his story, and in that way just help tolerance throughout, just everywhere, I guess.
Alex's outlook on life, I believe, has changed dramatically. I see what a gentle man he has become.
He can deal with that past even when he thinks about it, because there's so much satisfaction for him today knowing what he's been able to do with his life. He can do so much good with it. It's a life that was saved for a reason.
Then I realized that I helped them, but I also realized how much they helped me to get rid of my anger, my frustration about Germany, and I'm so proud of being part of it. And now I feel honored to accept the Honored Citizens Award, as well as the school being named Alexander Lebenstein Realschule School Against Racism.
mother's prayer, a mother's son. Nights so deep, nowhere to run. Broken glass, shattered homes, fear that surges through the bones. Dear friends, protect, take a stand against the tyranny of evil men. Open your ears, O faithful ones. Open your hearts, bind up your wounds. Live with courage every day. Turn away from darkness to the light of day. Remember my call to reconcile, or hate will turn around to hate you. Reach out to hold a different hand. Every child, every woman and man, we all have worth, we're all the same. We share the earth, the sky, the rain. Remember my call to reconcile, or hate will turn around to hate you. Each country, color, religion, race, we all have a human face. The mystery of love, triumph over hate, blessing from above. Keep awake, keep awake. I remember it all, never forget that place. My prayer for the human race. I remember it